Good evening, everyone, and I'm just so thrilled that each of you could make it tonight, given a busy schedule. This is an important topic tonight on human trafficking. In a nutshell, it affects our children directly, and in our world, it affects our students from a very young age, sadly, to the adult age. Throughout the experiences of our panel, which range from law enforcement, our superintendent, from mental health, from the legal aspect, we have Judge Bowman, from the perspectives of a high school principal, a middle school principal, guidance counselor, social worker, we're going to be giving you the latitude of our services and our concerns and the expertise that each of these panel members have. So what I'm going to do, because we have a time-sensitive time together from 6 to 7:30, I'm going to be very succinct and try to move this meeting in a way that channels everyone having an opportunity to speak and share. So at this point in time, I'm going to give the mic, and we have 2 minutes each. I say that because I'm the one that usually goes over 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and give this to Superintendent Davis. We are expecting Representative Jackie Toledo, so she may be running in any moment. Superintendent Davis.
Yes, ma'am.
And from your perspective, what might you share tonight?
Yes, ma'am. I'll use this mic. It's okay. Thank you, Ms. Gray, and we really appreciate you bringing this to the forefront because it is a really important issue that we must address from a community perspective, not only from a state but a national perspective as well. And I want to thank everyone here today, those from survivors of human trafficking, to our panelists, to our community members that are here to be able to discuss this incredibly important topic. Oftentimes when we think about human trafficking, we think about it being somewhere else, in another country or in another state. But we're here to tell you that it is very close to home, and it is something that we must continue to increase the awareness, not only through our principals, our district staff members, but our teachers, our support staff, and openly to our community and to our parents as well. We have to do everything we can educationally to make certain that we eliminate this opportunity within our community and strengthen our awareness so that we can give our children the skills and the ability to combat anyone that addresses them or approaches them in an inappropriate manner or undesired behavior. Florida is one of the top 3 states where human trafficking is the most prevalent. And from our side of it, we have close to a dozen or more arrests that have been made. We have law enforcement here today that probably can expand on that initiative and those numbers. So it is really here for us to continue to make certain we have this important conversation and we continue to leverage the knowledge of the panelists today that range for so many different perspectives that talk about all of the proactive steps we're taking and steps that we need to take in order to make this a continued priority. You know, we from our side of it, like the panelists today, Mrs. Gray does a really nice job. Has stood up a human trafficking task force that works closely with our school-based leaders to make certain that we stay committed to being able to fight in this pressing issue. And alongside the role of us being an educator to teach the scope and the sequence of our students every single day, our primary continued focus in education is the safety of our children. And this is an important aspect that we will continue to keep front of all of our educators. We'll make this a priority. We'll legislate through our curriculum and at the same token do everything we can to galvanize this community and leverage law enforcement, to be able to leverage our community activists, to be able to leverage our panelists, our education, our curriculums, and also our judicial system to take strong stances. And I can tell you this, from me working with Chad Chronister, our sheriff, he has continued to be on point to make this a priority within our community, and our school district and our safety and security platform stands ready and primed to be able to continue to help and support in this manner. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. And indeed, you'll hear different perspectives. One of the perspectives will be from law enforcement. And you'll also be having the opportunity to write questions, and we will ask those questions, or we will have the experts answer. But more on that a little bit later. Frank Reyes, you are in charge of the PTA, Hillsborough County PTA. Will you introduce yourself? He hates this, but go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Frank Reyes. I am, I guess, in charge of the PTA, but really I'm president of the Hillsborough County Council PTA, and I'm not in charge of that because I have 15 amazing women who do amazing work. So good evening. Thank you so much. For the past 10 years, I have served on local and county council units as well as on the Florida PTA board. I'm making sure that our kids are loved, they're supported, and they're given the opportunities to receive the best education possible. I've been very fortunate to collaborate with great people with amazing hearts for our schools and our communities. And tonight is no exception. We have a wonderful panel, and the stakes could not be higher on the issue that we're talking about tonight. So the state of Florida has had too many areas that are negatively affected by human trafficking, and Tampa, unfortunately, is high on that list. We are fortunate that we have a panel of educators, social workers, law enforcement, and resource groups that will be sharing with you what is going on all around in our community. In addition, you also get to hear from two people who are going to share their stories with you. So hopefully you really listen to them because they're going to be amazing, impactful stories. In addition, you will see behind me at some point during the evening contact information on community resources that will be ready and able to help, as you may have seen them as you walk through the tables. They are here. Please reach out to them if you feel like there's information, anything that comes up, anything you'd like to know about. You're going to hear a lot of information tonight that you either didn't know about or misconceptions about, so we do ask that you reach out. Finally, my hope for after tonight is you'll be able to recognize the red flags, remove any preconceived ideas that it cannot happen to my family, and it can definitely happen to your family. It can happen anywhere you live. It crosses socioeconomic areas, any type of barriers. And finally, that you'll be able to share this information with others in your schools, your places of worship, your occupations, and your communities, and of course your PTAs. Please remember, we may not all be experts in this issue, but we are all child advocates, and we are purposed to protect our most precious resource, and that's our children. So thank you.
Well said, Mr. Reyes, and thank you all the PTAs that represent about 38,000 families, so lots of work you're doing. I next want to introduce Judge Bauman. You are going to be the legal arm. Would you go ahead and just for 2 minutes, just share who you are? Oh, you have your microphone.
I have a microphone. Thank you very much. First of all, I'm Judge Robert Bauman. I was elected 2014. In 2016, I was assigned the juvenile crossover division, in which I handle everything that juveniles can get into: truancy, mainstream juvenile dependency, delinquency, dependency, sexting, sex crimes, everything. One of the things that I noticed within the first month that I was assigned to that division, that I was seeing 2 to 4 kids a week that were victims of human trafficking. And that set off a red alarm to me that I needed to look into that, do my research, and one of the concerns was, what can we do to assist these juvenile or youth victims of human trafficking? And so in 2018, we were putting together what we call Option Court. It started in 2019, and we call it Option Court, offering potentially trafficked individuals opportunities now. And it's for a juvenile court. Our jurisdiction arises from dependency and delinquency. We are constantly on the lookout between those that assist us, including a great case manager I have, Alyssa Hall, that will go through whether it's dependency, looking at different shelter reports or reviews or information, or it's a criminal report affidavit, and from there we'll make a determination, or we'll put them on our docket so we can investigate. The biggest thing is that we have More to Life and One More Child, Redefining Refuge, several different providers in our community that allow us an opportunity to reach out for that child. We call it Option Court because, as you may already know or may learn, that most victims don't identify as victims, especially the youth. And so what we do is provide them an opportunity to receive services, and hopefully they'll accept them. You know, success for us can be some child staying place overnight, some child going to school for a week. There are so many different factors involved. But thank you again for allowing me to attend on this panel, and the biggest point is education is key, and we have to continue to learn about this problem and educate our children, our communities, everyone engaged in Hillsborough County. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Bowman. And just from our next special guest will be Dottie Groover Skipper. If you'll just share your area of expertise, everyone knows you. If you don't know Dottie, you will know her after this meeting. She's such a famed child advocate. Dottie?
Thank you, Chair Gray. And my name's Dottie Groover Skipper, and I have been in the trenches with anti-trafficking work for over 40 years. So I've learned a lot in that 40-year time. I'm working currently with an organization called the No More Foundation, and we have trained, I guess, over 23,000 school personnel on trafficking, and we will continue to do that. I was asked to give a little overview of human trafficking, so if you still want me to do that, I'm happy to do that.
Give a definition of human trafficking just so we can get started and educated.
Yes. Human trafficking has a big, long, formal definition, but I like to narrow it down to a simple sentence. Human trafficking is the business of the exploitation of vulnerabilities. The business of the exploitation of vulnerabilities. Our foster care youth, our special needs kids, LGBTQ plus kids, kids who feel like they don't belong. The list goes on and on and on. Anyone with a vulnerability can absolutely be a target for the snare of a trafficker. So keep that in mind, that human trafficking has no boundaries. It crosses all socioeconomic, gender, ethnic, and age boundaries. And anyone under the age of 18 is considered a human trafficking victim if that child has been placed into any kind of sexual exploitation, commercial sexual exploitation. And the last thing that I want to say at this point is one might think that human trafficking is, through strangers. And I think the one thing I'd really like for everyone to leave here with tonight is that human trafficking, a lot is most prevalent in family situations where the child might feel like a family member or a trusted family friend. But that is many times the perpetrator. So it's not stranger danger anymore, hence the title for our panel, Stranger Danger in the 21st Century, which is a lot of familial trafficking.
Thank you, Dottie. And just as a reminder, you will be submitting questions to the various panels. We're going to have a special guest who just came in speak about what she has done. This is Representative Jackie Toledo, and we are honored to have you. I know you're busy, and we also know that your heart has been involved with the human trafficking subject. So just for a minute or two, Jackie, would you introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Chair Gray. Can you hear me? It's an honor to be here amongst so many warriors. Thank you for all being here and for learning about human trafficking, which is something in the past we thought it was just hidden, and now it's occurring in plain sight. And it was something that was brought to my attention a long time ago through the Junior League of Tampa, through their Abolish movement. So before I was ever elected, I got elected in 2016. And then shortly after, I was appointed to the Statewide Council of Human Trafficking, where I was able to make a difference and to change what is happening in human trafficking with the help of experts, because I'm not an expert. I'm a transportation engineer by trade, but what I wanted to do is gather data and speak to the victims and see what we can do to make a difference and to eradicate human trafficking. And that's what I've been doing for the last couple years, is listening to experts like Dottie, who has told me if we change the laws, if we do this, if we help the victims. In the last 2 years, I was able to get some legislation passed. Last year, I focused on the victim and trying to help expunge their records so they could move on with their life, buy a home, get a job, go to school, things that they weren't able to do. I heard from so many victims that really want to get out of the cycle of being trafficked, but they couldn't do it. So I heard from one that was, I guess, inspired to become an engineer. so that's great, and they finally graduated and are able to be part of our society and contributing. So it's amazing to hear their stories of success and hope, and we were there for them, and I was hoping to make a difference in their life. This year I filed a bill that didn't make it all the way through, but it had several components to it. One of it had a trafficking in persons lab, which would help us gather the data that we need to really see what is happening, how the criminal network is moving throughout our state, and try to identify hotspots and trends so we can stop it before it happens. We were able to get the funding, but not the mandate that the law enforcement has to share that information with the Trafficking in Persons Lab. But I think there was no opposition to that language. The other part of the bill did have some controversy, which was increasing the penalties for sex buying to a felony. I know you probably are thinking should be a felony. Of course it should be a felony. There's so many things that we're making felonies, but this was not able to get passed, unfortunately. So we'll continue to fight that and get that on the books, because really, if you're addressing the demand side of it, we'll get to the heart of human trafficking. The last part that we were able to get passed was the ban on the hourly motels. And that was something that local governments wanted to see in place. They had tried for years. They were fighting statewide preemption on that. So I got that, even though there was one bill that died, I got that put into another bill and passed. So that was a hard work, and sometimes things that you think should be obvious and passed right away take a lot of effort. But we need to make sure we do everything that we can to protect victims of human trafficking.
Thank you, Representative Toledo. Oh, let's give her a big hand.
Thank you.
And you're going to wind up giving everyone a big hand, but for my own edification, I know that Representative Toledo has been on human trafficking walks, has helped fund the needs for us to have resources to strategize, protect our children in this community, and we thank you for everything you're doing. And you're not giving up, so thank you for that. At this time, we do have a Spanish-speaking conduit. Ms. Magado, would you go ahead and come up and just share in Spanish what we have in case we have some Hispanic folks here?
Si hay alguien que quisiera recibir esta información tan importante, tenemos audífonos disponibles. Aquí fuera simplemente salir y se le pudiera proveer. Gracias.
Gracias. And to make it real, and a lot of this will become very real in the hearts of every one of you, we have a student who wrote a poem, and her name is Sullivan Johnson. And I'm going to just let her speak. She's going to read the poem, which is very heartfelt. And we do have testimonials, and obviously we have experts who will also share their area expertise. Following that, we'll have the Q&A. But would you do us the pleasure, Sullivan, of sharing your name and why you wrote a poem on human trafficking? I'm just going to give you the mic. There you go. There we go.
My name is Sullivan Johnson, and I wrote this poem because I wanted to spread awareness for a cause that wasn't very noticed in some areas. So this is my poem. It's called The Ways of the Beast. It's not that easy, not just looking around. Men, women, rarely found. It could happen to anyone, family, friends, that special someone. They consume you, their very cruel ways. You could be there for days. Sexual reasons, even abuse. Selling, hurting, you might be reused. They lure you to the beast. Befriending Hollywood is another way indeed. Virtual though, you surely fall into their trap. The signs are hard to uncover rightly, but these are some of the most likely. Withdrawn, controlled, won't look you in the eyes. Bruised, hurt, help them survive. In the bad ending, death, suicide, scarred for life. Trust issues, down after life. Knowledge is power. This is not to scare you, but unfortunately, this is the way of the terrible beast. This is your chance to save them.
Wonderfully said. Let's give her a big hand. It took a lot of courage and a lot of thought And thank you, parents, for really developing a great young lady with a cause. Now we're going to go ahead and continue our experts. And following that, I believe the questions will be coming. And here we go. So, let's see. Danette, you're next.
It's great. Before we transition, I want to recognize Sullivan's teacher, Miss James, Danielle James. Thank you so very much for reaching out, and as we send this importance in sharing the poem, awesome job for you. Thank you for educating our children and linking this to a very important issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. James. Wow. Yeah. Always a great teacher that gets our students going. Thanks so much. Okay, Miss Danette.
Hi, I'm Danette Lyles, and I work at a middle school, Shields Middle School, and I'm the social worker. And some of the things that I have encountered is just daily living, that daily living aspect that affects families who are struggling. I usually can identify with some of the students who are doubled up or have multiple families in one home. The girls will come in and they won't say, but I know something is just not right. And usually I will find out through a friend, and then we'll call the student back in. And the hard part for me and for the child is the child knows their situation because the parents cannot afford to live out on their own. And so the parents might kind of sense something is happening, but due to where I'm going to live, where do I go, they kind of put it on the back burner. And then once it comes out, it creates a lot for the child, a lot for the family, because a lot of our mainly girls who are going through that, they're really willing to sacrifice themselves just to have a place to live and a roof over their heads. And a lot of times they will say to me, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen with my family. Or they're mad, or they think their parents are going to be mad at them, mainly the mom, And also the survival mode, sometimes what they do is they'll take up with someone that they don't know, a man that they don't know that well, but it's just survival. Also, I want to mention to parents, please be mindful to look at your children's social media. It is very important. At a middle school, we start the latest and we end the latest. And parents have to go to work. And they leave it up to their students a lot of times to be responsible to get to school. And sometimes, if they're on social media, some of our predators, they will talk them into doing things that they shouldn't do. And that becomes a problem. So just parents, please be aware. Don't be afraid to ask your student, let me look through your phone. Let me see what's going on. Please be involved, because that's how a lot of the predators make contact with their victims.
Thank you, Danette Lyles, and just be reminded that each of these panelists have put their skill set and their heart for the last 2 years, and Danette, you're one of them. Every meeting we've had, you've been committed. Thank you. Kyra, you're going to introduce the two ladies, and then we're going to hear their testimonial when we're finished. Go ahead.
Hello, good evening. Excited to be here with you guys today. My name is Kyra. I am the Southeast Prevention Coordinator for Sail of Freedom, which is an anti-human trafficking organization with 5 strong arms. We have organizational consulting, we have an awareness arm, outreach, services, residential, and near and dear to my heart is prevention, because we really believe that if we can get in front of the issue by preventing it through education, that's the key to ending human trafficking. I have the pleasure of introducing the 2 survivor speakers who will speak at the end. Miss Mia Braddock, who's to my right. Mia is a residential graduate of our Sail of Freedom program, and she now works for Sail of Freedom as a prevention advocate, as well as a survivor mentor. And then I have Holly Harris to my left. Holly Harris is also a residential graduate from Sail of Freedom's program, and she advocates in a number of different ways, including being on Sail of Freedom's Survivor Advisory Board, as well as being a published author of Relentless Survivor. We do have a table outside, and so please come see her book. She's going to be signing a few copies and giving them away, and just can speak with you more about her advocacy work in that book that she wrote.
Thanks, Kyra. And yes, there's great help tables and resources out in the lobby, so we want you all to visit that as well. So, Ms. Capucci, you have a lot to share. I know we have a time certain, but you've been a busy girl. Tell us what's going on in our school.
Good evening. I'm Ashley Capucci, Supervisor of Physical Education, Health, Dance, and Driver's Ed. We are responsible for educating students, and so we do that through 2 different curriculums. And in K through 8, we use the Monique Burr Foundation, where we talk about child safety matters and then teen safety matters. And then in 9th grade, through our HOPE, our Health Opportunities Through Physical Education course, we use a curriculum called Chosen. That's brought to us by Shared Hope International. And then we also, in 10th through 12th grade, we go back and we teach the Monique Burr Teen Safety Matters to our high school students through social studies. So one thing I really love about this district is we've been ahead of human trafficking since 2008. And we work closely with Mrs. Dottie Skipper, and all of the people on the panel here, we strive to work close with. We want to know more about, we want to be educated about what human trafficking is, how do we prevent it. And so we're just so thankful that we have this opportunity tonight, and that we're able to collaborate with so many stakeholders who love students and who care about students. One of the biggest things, and I know when we had this panel last year, is I told parents, human trafficking does not discriminate. And so sometimes we think, and I know we've said it before, we think not our neighborhood, not our student, but it happens every single day. So just be aware. I know when you go out to the tables, or if you picked up the pamphlet earlier today, you'll know that there's some resources on there for you. There's apps behind apps. There's video games where there's chats. Those are where our students are getting lured into. And so through our education, we do educate our students about online safety usage, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, finding a safe adult, using their safety rules, and I'll be more than willing to share all of that after as additional resources that you can take home so you can become a little bit more familiar with what we're doing with students inside the classroom.
Thank you, Ms. Capucci. Again, 2, 4, 6 years, more than that. She's been working on human trafficking. Thanks for your commitment. Ms. Colleen Carr, middle schools, I know that you have also been very involved. What, from your perspective, how do you see human trafficking?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here and investing in our youth. About 4.5 years ago, I remember meeting Ann Garrison, and she was explaining human trafficking. I didn't really understand what it was at that time, but what propelled me was that, or perplexed me, was that she said it's number 1 in Tampa. And as I sit here and I think back about my first situation that I had to deal with human trafficking, it was with a student, a 6th grader, who had great parent support. And I implore you tonight for you to remember that with the right situation, it can be any child. And one of the things I can say, I have a 6-year-old, and she can work the iPad, and she is savvy. She knows how to put up a tab and let me think that she's doing iReady when she's really not. And I can say with technology today, it opens up so many doors for our students. You know, what tends to happen is 6th graders come in, and our parents, you know, they're like, oh, it's my little baby. 7th grade comes in, we start taking our hands off. And in 8th grade, we just kind of like, they're in 8th grade now. I would say to you, every day, ask your child what happened in school today. How is your day going? Notice behaviors. If you notice that your child is changing, it's time to be nosy. I call it, they used to call me, Ms. Carr, you think you're part of the FBI. I sure am. I get paid to know what's going on with you. So it's those discussions and having that hands-on approach that helps us to understand what's going on in our students or in our child's lives. Another thing is to remember it can be any child. So even if you notice something with someone else's child, go ahead and be on the safe side and report it to the school. Hey, I noticed so-and-so, or to law enforcement. It's better to be safe than to be sorry, because it takes a whole village to raise today's youth. And I can tell you, as a parent of a 6-year-old and a middle school principal, we hear some stories that would shock your brains. And we'll say, in middle school? Yes, in middle school.
Thank you, Colleen, and well said and experienced. Next, we have Principal Johnny Bush from Plant High School. And Johnny has left probably a crowd of 1,500 because he works with Representative Toledo and our Superintendent Davis, this whole group here on human trafficking, a very big advocate and a lot of experience. So, Mr. Bush, can you do a brief deep dive, listen to that, brief deep dive into...
Sorry for a principal, right?
Well, especially Johnny Bush, for your expertise and your perspective.
And I really, in this, feel like I have not as much of the hands-on thing. What I do at my school and how I kind of got brought into this by by Board Member Gray is that they wanted to know what we were doing at Plant High School. So we've had the PTSA president there to visit, and we've had Ms. Gray there. We've had several other people come by because we talk about that healthy opportunities and physical education program, and they get to come and see our teachers do it right. People do not even realize that we talk about this stuff in high school and just put these things out there. One of the other things that I thought was unique about Plant High School is we offer about 75 clubs. And one of the things that I, in my own personal research, have figured out is that if kids are not involved, they're on this thing by themselves all the time, then they're going to go that route. They're going to look for that route. But if they're in one of 75 clubs, and we have clubs that specialize in things like stand up, that's standing up to bullying, so kids that are bullied don't feel like they're alone, and they have people they can go to. SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions. We have Peers, which is a mentoring program with our students there. We have SAC, the Student Advisory Council. We have the Gay Straight Alliance there, where kids that feel that need to bond with the people like themselves, what have you, they go to that. We have First Priority, which is a Christian organization. We have Fellowship of Christian Athletes. The unique thing about these is they may have an adult sponsor, but they are run by kids. If a student runs it, we're going to have it. We have a Quidditch club, and that's Harry Potter, the fake game where they're running around with the broom. But kids are involved in something, and they have people, and kids notice when they don't, when other kids are not participating, and they bring these things to our attention. That way we can get them to the proper mental health professional within our school. But again, the big thing that we bring in at a high school level, and the thing that is, make sure your kids are involved. If your kids are involved with multiple people, they're going to have people to talk to. You'd be surprised at what other kids notice about other students there, and what these kids are seeing on these. There are some apps out there we don't even know about, but kids bring them to our attention because they, a club member or a classmate or something like that. So again, we just want to keep putting things out there for kids to be involved in. We feel like there's a great need for kids to belong and have a place to build positive relationships. So that's what we offer at the high school level.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. And very, very involved you are in your whole school. Next, we have Major Harris from the Sheriff Department. Major, thank you. I know you also have a huge commitment and a latitude of experience with human trafficking. Share just a moment or so about what you do.
Thank you, Lynn. My name is Major Jeffrey Harris with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office. I'm here on behalf of Sheriff Chad Chronister, and just wanted to talk a little bit on human trafficking as far as the enforcement side. I spent the last 2 years serving on the task force with Ms. Gray and a lot of the people that are sitting here, and I can tell you it's been an absolute pleasure. Some of the things that I see that go on inside of the schools. I personally have never had that perspective from the enforcement side, so it's just very, very interesting in how grateful we should be as a community of all the different programs that go on inside the schools. Also, have worked with Sail of Freedom and Misty and all her people. What a great organization! I can tell you. I've basically managed all of our human trafficking operations for the last 6 years for Hillsborough County, all of our proactive operations and traveling cases where we have individuals coming to try and pick up minors for sex. I can tell you, Sail of Freedom, and they've never told us no. They're out at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning sometimes, getting hotels, staying the night. So they're there to be able to help us, and they're not necessarily in on the juvenile victim side, but I can tell you we've run into some occasions where we make contact with a juvenile victim, and there's nowhere to take them in the middle of the night. And Misty and her people at Sail of Freedom have stepped up at very, very crucial times during some of those operations to help us out. That's basically what I got for now, Lynn, and obviously we're here for any questions. I'm sure we'll get plenty of questions for the panel, and also just the relationship too that Sheriff Chronister has with Mr. Davis and how we work together to just put the awareness out to the students. It's phenomenal. It really is.
It really is. And Major Harris also has been an integral part for the last 2 years, at least, with our district and on our forum, our human trafficking forum. And we thank you, and we welcome Major Maurer, correct? Will be next. All right. It's hard to replace you, by the way. All righty. So, Kyra, would you go ahead and briefly introduce, and following these testimonials, which may be hard for many people to listen to because it's the real deal, we'll take your questions, and I know that will happen next. So, Kyra, it's all yours.
Yes, our first speaker today is going to be Mia Braddock.
Okay. Well, as I first want to say, as both a survivor of sex trafficking, a graduate of Sail of Freedom's residential program, and now a prevention advocate, I've heard so much stuff on this panel that just really makes my heart happy, because I can tell you that these conversations aren't conversations that were ever had with me, or conversations that I were ever aware being had in my community. So I just love so much of what I've heard. I mean, I'm going to tell my story, obviously, but while I'm telling my story, I just think that it's it's very beneficial to keep in mind what's already been said, that this can be anybody's child. It really can. It can happen to anyone. So my story, I was born to two parents that were both addicted to drugs and alcohol. By the age of 3, I was in the care of my aunt and uncle, who raised me as their own daughter, and I love them today just like my mom and dad. They never treated me any different. They're the only parents I've really ever known. I grew up in a nice neighborhood, a suburban neighborhood in Jacksonville, Florida. I went to good schools. I had all the things, I had food, shelter. We did things as a family. My parents have always been my biggest advocates, my biggest fans. But there was some deeper issues going on with me. Being that I was raised by two people that weren't my biological parents, I kind of always had this
need, this desire, this curiosity, if you will, about where I came from and, the people that did, raise or birth me. So around the age of 12, I was able to go to Memphis, where my birth parents were from. We weren't even really going to see them. We were going to visit other family, and it just so happened that my biological father was in the area and stumbled on by the house we were at. At this time, he was very intoxicated, under the influence of drugs and alcohol, but this is my biological father. I had, wondered about him for so long, and this was the moment. During that moment, he was being very inappropriate in the questions he was asking me. He wasn't asking those questions that you would think a father would want to know of his daughter that he's just meeting for the first time in, however many years. They were about boys and what I had done, what I hadn't done. And as he was asking me these questions, his hand was wandering into inappropriate places. And in that moment, I didn't really have the words for what was going on. I knew that it made me feel really uncomfortable, but again, this is that moment that I'd been waiting for, that I wanted to meet him. My mom, when I say my mom, I mean my aunt, she trusted him enough to leave me alone with him, so I didn't really think anything of it. I kind of just was quiet about it, and I held that secret for a very long time. But I didn't realize, being 12 years old, that not speaking about what happened to me, not speaking about how he made me feel, where he touched me, was actually making me more vulnerable. It was at that same age that I began acting out. So up until then, I had been on the honor roll. I received an award for my FCAT scores. I had friends. I was doing really well in school. But that kind of was like a catalyst for me, that happening with my biological father. My parents both worked really hard, full-time jobs, to make sure not only that, we had the bare minimum, like food, shelter, but that we could do things as a family. So I don't think they saw a lot of what was going on. Also, like I said, they were my biggest cheerleaders. They really believed in me. So when I did start acting out, I did start skipping class, I did start hanging out with a rougher crowd, they really wanted to blame it on the people I was hanging out with. It wasn't me, it was my friends. And if I just didn't hang out with them, then this wouldn't happen. It was around the same age that I also began experimenting with drugs and alcohol, because I was in so much pain. Being that young, I couldn't really vocalize it, but I knew when I did this substance or I acted out in this way, the pain was a little bit less. Doing those things put me in situations where I became more vulnerable. I was hanging around with people that were only looking to exploit me, only looking to take advantage. Inside, I knew I kind of had these things going on, right? Like, I knew I didn't feel like I belonged. I knew I never felt a part of. Another part of my story is I grew up in a neighborhood with mostly Caucasian white families. There was only maybe one or two other little girls, little boys that looked like me. So that was another part of my insecurities, just not feeling like I belonged, not feeling like I fit in. But I didn't think that anybody in my life could see that. I thought I was holding that as a secret. But as I started engaging in these activities and my behavior got more dangerous, I was hanging around a group of people that could spot that out and preyed on me because of that. Again, I didn't know what was going on. By the age of 16, I had been raped multiple times. Again, all keeping this inside. At this point in my life, I kind of blamed myself for these things happening to me. If I hadn't have went to that party, if I hadn't have given my phone number to that man, if I hadn't have done this, then this wouldn't have happened to me. I really took a lot of that on and internalized it as, you know, me just being a bad person, being a bad kid. Obviously, as I was acting out in school, that's kind of the label that I got, right? Like I was angry, I was a troublemaker. Nobody really knew like the deeper issues that were going on there. And that label of being just a bad kid, being a troublemaker, it really was detrimental to me in the long run. Speaking to what I said earlier about the fact that these conversations around sex trafficking were not conversations that were being had as I was growing up, going through what I went through, the sexual abuse, that line of questioning from my biological father, I felt like something had been taken away from me, right? So it was like, I was probably around 12, 13 at the time. There was a late night TV show that was going on that was actually following the lives of women that worked in a brothel. And the women in this show, they didn't have insecurities. They didn't look like they weren't confident. They looked like they knew what they were doing. They looked empowered. They looked confident. They made this life look so glamorous. And I kind of was interested in that. It piqued my interest because I wanted to feel those feelings. So as I got older and I became a victim of even more sexual abuse, I kind of took it and spun it in a way to kind of match the energy that these women in this show had, right? So I remember one of the instances of abuse, I actually, instead of calling it what it was, I almost bragged about it, right? I was 15 and this was an older man and he wanted me, right? Even though it was rape, I wanted to control that situation. So I lied to myself in my mind to manipulate it into that. By the age of 16, I was completely addicted to drugs and alcohol. Again, my parents this whole time were kind of writing it off to the people that I was hanging out with. I was smart, I was beautiful, I was talented. It was the people around me that were making me engage in these activities. By the age of 17, I dropped out of high school, and that is when I was trafficked for the first time. Again, with all these deep-rooted insecurities, all this pain, and now substance abuse on top of that, I was so vulnerable, and I didn't realize it. After being trafficked at the age of 17, this whole other world kind of opened up to me, right? Like I didn't know some of this stuff was even going on in Jacksonville, where I lived, in Florida, period. Again, to me, trafficking was something that happened in foreign countries, right? It didn't happen here, and it definitely didn't look like this. By the age of, I want to say I was 21, I had been through several traffickers at that time. I hadn't gotten to that dark, ugly side of it yet, right? So, a lot of times people say, well, why didn't you run away? Why didn't you just fight? Why didn't you get out of it? At that time, I didn't know that I needed to. I didn't know that I was living this life that I thought I was in control, basically. And it wasn't until I met my last trafficker that the realities of what human trafficking, the realities of what sex trafficking really is, hit me. It was not what I saw on TV. I lived a life where I was abused physically, mentally, emotionally, on a daily basis. He kept me under the influence of drugs at all times. I was so physically addicted that I could not go hours without using something. And he kept me sick to the point where I was desperate, right? I would do anything to get that next fix, to get that next high, giving him complete control. He was a lot smarter than I gave him credit for. In one of our first interactions, he was like, "Man, you know, you look rough. Where's your stuff? Let me take you home. Let me take you home so you can get cleaned up, get yourself some clothes." He took note of where I lived, where my family lived, where the people that meant the most to me lived, and used that against me as leverage. I was in that situation for a very long time. I did try to get away, and he found me. Not only did he almost beat me to death, but the people that tried to help me became victims of his as well. During that time that I spent with him, I was arrested time and time again on drug charges. Every time I went to jail, he went home. He would show up the next day or in the next week and be outside the jail waiting to pick me up, and the cycle would start all over again. Within the last 2 months I spent with him, I believe I was arrested around 11 times, and I really didn't see a way out. I was completely broken at this time of my life. I was sure that if he didn't kill me, that the drugs were going to. It was at that time that I was offered the drug court program. Like I said, I didn't really see a way out of this life I was living. I was hopelessly addicted. I had no real plans on getting clean when I accepted the drug court offer, but I wanted to get away from him for sure. During that time, they sent me to a rehab. The whole time I was in rehab, he was stalking me on property. It got to the point where they were going to exit me from the rehab and put me back on the streets. It was at that time that I spoke to a counselor finally about what I was going through, who he really was to me, why I felt so obligated every time he showed up to speak to him or what have you. When I first spoke up about what I had been going through, human trafficking, sex trafficking was not the word that was put to it. It was Stockholm syndrome. And that did not sit right with me. That didn't feel like what I was going through. They did try to help me. My counselor at the time, and this was a cultural barrier almost, but being another woman of color, she was like, "Well, girl, why don't you fight back?" Again, kind of pushing that stigma that it was so easy to get away, right? The hold he had on me was more than physical, but mental as well. They went through several avenues to get me help, and it wasn't until I found Selah Freedom, or Selah found me, I should say, that I really, for the first time, had any glimpse of hope. There was a place that was specialized to help people like me. That was the best decision that I've ever made in my life, going to Selah Freedom. My life is completely turned around today. All that pain, all that baggage that I was carrying, I truly have freedom from. And now I get to use my story and my knowledge to give back to youth. And that is that's what I'm most grateful for about my experience with Selah, is that they gave all that pain, all that trauma, they gave it meaning. By allowing me to give back to the youth today.
Thank you, Mia. That was quite, let's give a big hand. Takes a lot of courage, and I'm sure we'll have some questions. And if we can go ahead and Holly, thank you also. You're going to share around 5 minutes, and then we'll have Q&A for everybody. Thank you.
So the other day I was asked why. Why do I speak at events? Why do I do what I do? Why did I write a book about my life story? My number one reason is for things like this, to bring awareness, not so much for the child, because the child won't know what is going on. I had no idea what was going on. I had no education on anything. The most I'd ever heard was the movie Taken, and then we never talked about it. So it happened in other countries, it wasn't in America. And while you guys were talking, I was thinking about, this was 13 years ago when I first got involved, and it happened on my phone or my laptop. And now it's like, there's so much out there. And then I think about my niece and other kids, and I'm like, it's so easy now. Like, it was easy then, it's definitely easy now. But another reason is so that other kids don't end up falling for the tricks and the tactics. Because if somebody has been doing it for a while and they know what to say, they know what to do, they will know exactly what they need to say to lure the child in. So the parents mainly also is so that they can know that it's real. And it's not just in certain parts of America, it's not, it doesn't discriminate at all. I grew up in an all-white community. There was nothing bad that happened in my small town in Wisconsin. And it was very, nothing was talked about at all, ever. Nothing bad, nothing that could be taken the wrong way, but it happened. And it happened to me, and I know that it happened to other people in my small town as well. Financially, I grew up very stable. I had loving parents. So there was I feel like I need to escape. So it's just kind of two completely different perspectives to show that it can happen to anybody, no matter how you grow up. So when I was 14, I left home. Don't really know my reasons why. I just didn't feel like the small town was what I wanted, what I needed. I wanted to experience life, and I felt like I was being held back. I was very sheltered. Grew up in a very spiritual family, went to church every Sunday, and I was never told anything about the world other than what I saw. So I left and I moved to Chicago, and that's where I met a guy that had just gotten out of prison after doing 9 years. I was 14 at the time still, and he knew all the right things to say. And I thought we were in love. I thought that we were going to be together forever. And, he was my protection. I was making more money than anybody around me. He was my protection. He loved me. That was far from true. And I saw that eventually. So I ended up leaving him because I didn't want somebody to take my money that I was selling myself for. So then it turned into, I got raped a couple times. I actually had some law enforcement use their power because I knew I didn't want to go to jail. So I appreciate so much the law enforcement that actually does care. It's helped change my perspective a lot. But then, knowing I needed some type of protection, I found it in some guys that were much older than me. I did not know going into it so much what they were involved in, but within a month span, I was involved in a gang on the south side of Chicago. And that was the worst part of my life. It was very violent, very brutal. And it was a couple months later, I was involved in a gang-related shooting that put me in prison for 6 years. And I never in my life thought that I would say prison was the thing that changed my life. But it was 5 years into it, and I finally realized this wasn't the life that I wanted for myself. I hadn't talked to my family at all. They had actually moved to Florida. And my mom was volunteering with Selah. She was a mentor because she knew what I was doing but didn't understand it at all because she had no education. So she sought it out through Selah, and they sent me an application. I filled it out, and the day that I got released from prison, I flew down to Florida and got picked up from a Selah staff. So doing the residential program, it helped me to find myself, find out what I truly liked, what was going to make me feel whole. I got back into my faith, but my own journey, walk of faith, that's mine. And gave me time to write a book that I never thought I would write. It started out as just, I'm not very good at talking through my feelings. I hold a lot of stuff in. So writing was my healing. And then there was a moment at church one day where God told me it was going to be a book, and I'm like, all right, we're writing a book. So it was hard, very hard to write. I think the the girl left that read the poem, but I was going to tell her to keep writing. It definitely changes lives. So, teacher, if you can tell her. But overall, you know, I appreciate this so much. I knew that people cared, you know, people were out there that were fighting. I never knew to the lengths, I guess. So it's definitely comforting for any survivor that has made it through and has changed their lives. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Holly, and lots of pain that you and Mia went through, and we definitely appreciate the share, and I know it's the real deal. So at this point in time, I have some questions, and I'll read them. And panelists, just raise your hand if you would like to answer them accordingly. The first one, though, I absolutely gave to Major, Harris. It has a little bit of law enforcement in this one. I'll need to get my glasses. I tried. Hold on. Excuse me. Judge, also, perhaps this goes to you, but has the open border impacted human trafficking in the Tampa area?
I'll take that one, Lynn. With open border, I presume we're talking about the southwest border. If that's the case, in Tampa Bay, we haven't seen any direct correlation with that. I guess some of the border states, Texas, California, so on, you know, they may see increase in human trafficking, possibly with that. But I can tell you from a law enforcement perspective in the Tampa Bay area, we haven't seen any specific increase due to what they're describing as open border.
Okay, thank you. Open question, Judge Bowman?
In terms of open border, I don't know that it's open border that has necessarily made a difference, but I can tell you in the last few years, we're seeing more of the Guatemalan children that are being trafficked into Florida, whether it's for sex trafficking or labor trafficking, because when we talk about human trafficking, it can be either or both. But we've seen that more within the last few years than we had in the prior 5.
Interesting. Likewise, and I think we're all curious, what is the number one reason for human trafficking in Tampa? Anyone want to respond? Dottie?
Well, I think, you know, we've heard it. It's the vulnerabilities, the business of the exploitation of vulnerabilities. And also we have beautiful weather, we have seaports, airports, all beautiful things that are a perfect storm for a tourist industry, perfect storm for individuals to prey upon others. So that's my brief answer. You look like you wanted to answer that as well.
It's not necessarily that it's Tampa residents that are vulnerable as much as it is that we're a location. So we have the I-4 corridor, we have Tampa, Lakeland, Orlando as the I-4 corridor in which traffickers will work. And it was interesting, I talked to one of the survivors and I said, well, why did you move around so much? And it's because traffickers chase the money. Why did we have our task force increase, our media coverage increase during the period of the Super Bowl and WWE or WWF? It's because traffickers chase the money, and those are big money events. But from my perspective, when the circus leaves town, trafficking doesn't go away. In fact, trafficking can increase. One of the things, and I know there have been some studies by our task force of whether or not the trafficking was decreased by some of the information being provided. I think you really have to look at the social media to see, not necessarily just the arrests, but look at the social media and look at how much that increased. You know, see how much advertising increased. check the different clubs, massage parlors, salons, etc., and see whether there was an influx of employees. One of the things that we've done with our option court is looked at data where some of these victims are not local, but have come from different states from around the country or from outside the U.S. And one of the means of looking at that is whether they list themselves as homeless or they give a false address. Chances are they are a victim from outside of Tampa, outside of Florida. So it's although Tampa has been considered to be number 2 in the state of Florida in terms of trafficking and victimization, it's all not necessarily that our victims are local. However, because what I see is that many of our victims are local and they're coming through dependency, foster care, things of that nature. That's why it's imperative that we educate, especially the middle school kids. Because one of the things to keep in mind that a lot of children are vulnerable or brought into trafficking at 12 years old. 12 years old, can you imagine? So that's why we have to educate and continue to be vigilant. And if we see something, say something.
Thank you, Judge Bowman. And I have something here for, I believe, Superintendent Davis. Well, this goes to a few of us, actually. And, oh, there it is. It seems like there have been a lot of arrests of people who work in schools. Are schools looking into people's backgrounds before hiring them?
Yes, ma'am. That's a great question. You know, one thing I want to give this community some confidence in, that every time that we conduct a hire, we always do a background check, and we always do reference checks as well. Unfortunately, you know that that families and individuals go through a number of emotional experiences, a number of traumatic experiences. So during that process before the hire, we may not have there may not been a documented trend of any type of experiences from that individual. If there's any red flags in any way, shape, or form that we deem that this individual cannot be around children, then we do not create the hire. But what we're seeing is that we see that individuals that, as of late, you know, not only here locally but throughout the state, these are individuals that have been in systems for a long time. And they just get to a point where they become fractured in the home front. They become fractured professionally. And, you know, we've got to continue to do a better job of training our principals, training our staff members to really identify early warning indicators, and just to really continue to pay attention. So one thing I will say that in the last 2 years, we've taken really an immediate and aggressive stance. Anytime that we've seen or been identified or been informed of an undesired behavior being experienced by an adult, one thing we are going to do is have a zero tolerance in that process.
Yes, and that is an important answer. Great question. A question for Mia. If you could go back to your age 16, instead of your parents saying it's the people around you, what would you want them to say or do? What would have helped?
I really love that question. My parents ask me that all the time, especially my mom. She wonders what she could have done differently, what she could have said to me, how she could have gotten through to me. My biggest thing for parents trying to prevent this, or even for myself at that age, is as parents, it's important to be like an advocate for your children's mental health and their social health as well. I was a kid. I had all these feelings. I didn't know what to do with. I think something my mom could have done is to maybe not look so much at the people around me and blame them, but focus on what was going on with me as an individual. She, like I said, both my parents worked, and they were busy, and I think they really wanted to believe that I was still their like perfect little girl that was on the honor roll and getting, you know, awards and things like that. But there was a lot of deeper rooted issues. And if maybe we could have sat down and had open communication and really talked about what was going on with me, what was that change, what were my social beliefs, right? Because like I told you, looking back, I can say that from a young age, I never felt good enough. I never felt like I fit in. I never thought I would be pretty or accepted. Growing up, like the big people that were popular was like Jessica Simpson and Britney Spears. Well, clearly I'm never going to have blonde hair and blue eyes. And I remember being a little girl, you know, crying because I never thought that I would be accepted socially. So not only just for what my parents could have done, but for parents going forward, like be aware of what's going on with your children. I heard somebody say, go through the apps, the social media, be aware of what's going on social media. I think that's so important because some of those feelings that they might not feel comfortable showing you, you might be able to pick up on signs through what they're watching on social media, what they're posting, because it's not just about mental health, as important as that is, but it's about like your social health as well. How are they interacting with the people around them?
Very, very good answer. That's not the right word to say, but very meaningful answer. Thank you, Mia. This one's for the entire panel. What can parents do to help protect their children from sexual predators and others who are trying to groom them while at school and other places? So parents are out there watching you all. And I'm a grandparent, what can we do to protect children? Ashley Capucci?
Thank you. Educate. So educate yourself first. Know what can happen to your son or daughter or niece, nephew. Be educated about the topic of human trafficking, and then also be open communication with your child. It's so important to also know not to use code words like pocketbook. Just call it what it is. I'm going to say it, vagina. Just call it what it is and have those code words. Nobody touches you here, right? And so that they're aware of what your expectations are so that they keep that in their mind. Well, if this happens, that's wrong. I need to report it. So sorry for saying that, but I know we hear a lot of code words. We hear students report, and often those code words like pocketbook and things like that, when a student is trying to report bad behavior, then we don't click and say, oh, a pocketbook is a purse. You know, we don't know what they're talking about. So use the proper anatomical language, have those open conversations, and just be there. I think it's so important. I've been educating my little one since she was 2. And it's just open communication.
So, yeah, the corollary question, and I just wanted to say that because you used a word that may or may not be comfortable for folks to hear, but the question is, does subjecting our children to sexual matter or content make them more vulnerable to predators? And we can, I know the hands are raised. So, Colleen?
Piggybacking off of what Ashley said, I think it's important for us to also recognize that this issue is not just about for females. We also need to protect our males as well. So that automatically popped into my head because a lot of times we just think it's a female issue. It can be any kid, and that's something that we have to change our mindset with. It can be any kid, it could be your kid, it could be my kid, it could be the kid over there. And also the education, but I also believe that you also have to have communication with the school as well. Back in my day, my technology was call waiting, and you better not be on the phone and your mom called and the line is busy. Nowadays, kids have so many more outlets and so many different role models that they look up to. So that communication piece, that education, and just understanding that it's your child, build that rapport.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. And Representative Toledo, would you like to remark?
Yes, and I 100% agree. It's all about education, but I think we all need to look out for each other's kids as well, because sometimes you can tell your kids, don't do this or this could happen to you, But if you're having those conversations with their friends and looking at their friends and saying, how's everything at home? Having those conversations could help save their life as well because someone else cares. So looking and doing everything we can, if we're going to fight this, if we work together on this.
And we all appreciate what you're saying. Look out for one another. And that's so critical. And again, all the pieces are here and here. I believe there was a hand up here. Kyra, did you want to share?
And I just was going to add on. I think it's been said. It doesn't look a certain way. Vulnerabilities come in many different shapes, sizes, outlets, and so it may not be that predisposure to that sexual content. That is going to be a vulnerability, but there's going to be other things as well. So just having that communication, that open dialogue as a parent, and being aware, of the kids that are around us as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Superintendent Davis?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. And I know the question was related to awareness and exposure to our students. I mean, we are professionally obligated to be able to have, content filtered, scaffold information accessible to students at a grade appropriate level. So, as Ashley talked about what grade levels are exposed to this particular content, there's different grading levels of the details that we go into. And I think it's very relevant. As a father, I would say about 2 years ago, and I have a daughter just turned 21 and one that's 16 years of age. We were out of town in a mall, and I go to the mall with my kids. I'm sorry. I was in one store with my wife, and they were in another store, and my daughter's calling us, 19 at that particular time, says, a gentleman continues to say things to me uncomfortably, where I'm flying furious down, trying to get to the store. And then, good thing he was gone at that particular time, but she had the awareness to stop him because we've educated her, make the phone call to us so we can be actively a part of that process. I only bring that example to the forefront because us coaching our daughters to be able to make sound decisions and actively engage in that process led her to have a better understanding of what was taking place and where she lives and the life that we live in. It's no longer the days, and Ms. Carr talked about call wait. I grew up with a pager. So, to being able to go to a pager, to be able to go to a phone book, and my daughters don't even know what a phone book is, getting to a point where we have to be able to have crucial conversations that will help protect them along the way. And as comfortable as they may be, it has to be in the forefront for their ongoing protection every day.
So we're getting comfortable with having comfortable conversations. And a lot of times they're not comfortable, but they need to be had with our children. Johnny?
Can I go back to Nia, amazing job and very proud of you. I'm just very caught up in emotion with your story, and just honor you and what you've done. Going back to looking out, because I'm a father of a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old, both girls, and their friends have been sleeping over, hanging out with us, since they were little kids. Was there a part that you were with a group of kids that were bright like you are, and then where did the separation come from? Like what part separated you?
Yeah, so the separation for me definitely happened internally, within myself. I did have a group of kids that were, good kids, and we were doing the right things. But when I started to feel like I was less than them, that's not where I belonged, I started acting in those behaviors that maybe they weren't a part of. Then slowly my social circle started to shift, and I kind of wanted to piggyback off what Kyra said about vulnerabilities. I know you guys have heard that word a few times, and that's one of the most important terms, I think. One of the most important terms to identify with is that vulnerabilities piece, because I shared my story and I did have some childhood sexual abuse. But that is not the only vulnerability that exists. It wasn't necessarily the abuse itself, but the feelings that came along with it. That feeling like I didn't fit in, that feeling like I didn't belong with the people that were around me, that depression, that anxiety. It's more of the feelings that were associated with that experience than the experience itself. And what we know as being, humans is that's not the only catalyst for those feelings. It doesn't have to look that way for those feelings to exist and for there to be a vulnerability.
Great, great response. Thank you. We have a few minutes remaining. I have about 2 more questions. What can the community do to be more aware? What signs, what signals? Anyone would like to take that? Kyra, and then Judge Bowman.
Yeah, and I think Ashley said it, and it's educating yourself. And there are so many resources and opportunities to get tied in. I know in Hillsborough County Public School, they're offering their education for the adults so that they can be aware of what the kids are being educated on in the school system. And there are organizations that are here that also offer education, whether it be youth or adults. And so I think that that's one of the most powerful things, is to educate yourself, because you're going to become more aware of the signs and the tactics that predators use to connect with our youth, and then what to be able to do about that.
Yeah, the tactics, the grooming signals. Judge?
Well, we all know that when our children are born, they don't come with instruction booklets. So what do? We get a book about raising children or having a child and how to handle a baby. So one of the things is, and that's the perfect run through, the sub question is, how do we educate? How do we educate ourselves as a parent? And as was just stated, we look for information. So not every parent, a single parent maybe, has to work in the evening. They can't attend a great panel like this. They don't have time to do that. So what do? You go to social media and you learn. I mean, I took about 10 minutes before I came here and pulled the National Human Trafficking Hotline, recognizing the signs, how to identify vulnerabilities, how to identify a trafficker, tattoos of human trafficking victims, how sex traffickers use emojis on Instagram. And then there was a Miami Law Review article about the little pink flower with a darker story to tell, the role of emojis on online human trafficking and potential liability, et cetera. So we educate ourselves, because we talk about, well, you need to educate. So the next question is, how do we educate? We have social media as well. We have Google. We have other publications, other information available to us, that when we can't attend a panel like this, or we can't spend 3 days at a seminar, or we don't have time to attend a church meeting that's addressing human trafficking, we can spend 30 minutes on social media and learn an awful lot about human trafficking and how to detect whether our child or our child's friends are engaged in any type of human trafficking behavior or maybe becoming victims. So those are one of the ways in which we educate or learn.
Thank you, Judge Bowman. And we'll use this as our final question, because what I would like to do is have the people who represent the tables, our help people, support people, just stand and say what support table they're having, so we can have the audience go through and get the necessary materials. This question is a duplicate. In Hillsborough County, we have the highest, highest saturation of sexual explicit books in our public schools and in the entire state. What are we doing as a school board and district to help protect our children from being exposed to the sexual content that's in our public schools? And there's one that also is the same. Does the reading materials desensitize them to the dangers of being trafficking? So we're getting educated, Ms. Capucci, which is good, but at the same time, does this lead to more, lead to more avenues of exploring by our teens? What do you all think?
I'll take it I will say this. So we have, one thing we do is we make certain that we have organizational controls within our school district. So we do ongoing training through our media specialists to identify what books to adopt, what books are relevant to the uniqueness of the community that they serve, and make certain that children have accessibility to texts that connect with who they are. We will continue to do that through that process. If there's ever a challenge that a parent or an educator or a student would like to go through, then there's a process in place for each individual school to be able to look at a particular text and then they'll have a review committee that determines whether or not that book needs to be selectively abandoned or we remove that book from that particular school. So that process is really strong. Our academic services has had it in place for a long time, and we'll continue to make certain that we have ongoing professional development and training for every one of our media specialists to make certain we have appropriate material in front of our children.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. And just real quick, if you are having a table in the lobby, can you stand up, say your name and what organization, just so we have that for real. And I'll start right at the back because Holly Saya stood up first. Ms. Saya, your name and your table. Oh, wait a minute.
Counselors. Thank you. School Health Services staff, as well as our mental health team. And we just want to assure you, Dr. Myrna Hogue, who is the supervisor of school social work, is with me at the table today. And we want to make sure that everybody knows that you have a student services team here to support you. And we're sharing a table with Ashley Capucci, who you know is the supervisor of physical education, health, dance, and driver's ed. So she has some information on the table as well to tell you about what educational pieces we have in place here. So thank you for being here today. And thank you, Ms. Gray, for highlighting this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Saya. And next.
Good afternoon. My name is Valerie Blunt Belford, and I am the Regional Criminal Justice Coordinator with the Florida Department of Children and Families here in the Suncoast region. So I oversee the missing children and human trafficking location efforts here in Hillsborough County. We work in conjunction with our community partners who are also here today as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Whittemore, and we are with More to Life for another anti-human trafficking organization serving over 7 counties in the Suncoast region, and we just opened up another branch in Miami-Dade. I'm an enrichment sustainability specialist. We have our prevention peer specialists and our regional advocate. Please come and see us. We provide wraparound services to survivors of human trafficking. So, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Gonzalez. I'm the Human Trafficking Care Coordinator over at the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. I connect survivors of human trafficking to various different resources, kind of like Sail of Freedom. And we also have trauma counseling as well that is free of charge to all victims.
We are the Tampa Teens, and we have interactive videos that focus on communication and awareness and can help start a conversation between the student and parent. It is appropriate for all ages, and we even have one in Spanish.
I'm June Wallace with Shared Hope International. We have the curriculum for the human trafficking on all of the Hillsborough County schools' computers, so that that education is there to anyone in the school, from the janitor up. And the name of the one program that is recommended that you look at is Chosen. It's a wonderful story that really walks you through.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hilda, and I am representing Sail of Freedom Prevention today. So what we do is we provide different types of trainings for youth of all ages, starting from kindergarten to 12th grade, and then also adults, about the realities of what human trafficking is and what that can look like, specifically sex trafficking. So again, we can go into your schools or into your different community organizations and talk about the realities of what human trafficking can look like. If you come over to our table, we do have different flyers that will give you information on all of our different trainings that we have to offer, again, for youth and also for adults. We also do Eventbrite trainings on a monthly basis, where if you would like to join us online, we can also register you online at the table. And then you can also take a flyer which gives you more information on Sail of Freedom Prevention and all of the things that we have to offer, from our online events to coming into your schools or community organizations, and also a youth referral program that we will be rolling out in the month of April. So that is Sail of Freedom.
Thank you.
Ms. Gray, I'm sorry. Dottie Groover Skipper, we have a table out there to the No More Foundation. I'm sorry I didn't see you standing up there, but we provide, we have state funding to develop trainings, and we have developed a great Train the Trainer training. So anyone who's interested in learning how to train other people, the No More Foundation, you can find that information out at our table.
Thanks, Dottie.
I'm Robbie Chaplin. I'm with the Campaign Against Human Trafficking and Domestic Violence. We're in the South Shore area. We do a lot of things. We're very proud of our Safe Shelter program. We can house someone that's been abused or, having an issue any time of day or night, and then make sure they get the proper services after that. What else do you want we just do all kinds of things. We do education. We do a few things in some schools close to us. We have scholarship programs. We're just out there to do whatever we can.
Thank you.
I'll add to that. It's always good to hear our president kick it in. We also do multicultural diversity. So we have a number of Hispanic programs for the students at the schools, and we work closely, like with Danelle and so forth at the schools, to help educate the Hispanic community about human trafficking and particularly domestic violence. In the South Shore area, domestic violence has increased by over 50% due to COVID and in the last year and a half. And I won't give you the numbers right now, but do stop by and pick up some materials. There are multiple programs that might be of interest to you. Thank you very much for that opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Garrison. And at this point in time, our time is up, but let's make sure that we give every one of our panelists a big hand of applause. We can't thank you enough. So, Ms. Superintendent Davis, been talking all night. Would you like to say anything in conclusion?
Thank you, Ms. Gray, for allowing us to come here and have this really important conversation. We thank all the panelists and all the individuals that have been here for the community to be able to wrap your arms around this important issue. I want to be very clear that we have worked daily to be able to train teachers and staff to be able to identify, immediate signs of sexual abuse or any traumatic experience that they have. We continue to have that ongoing professional development related to this, and we really can coordinate our efforts with social workers, psychologists, school counselors, anybody we can to be able to have that triage. But I will say that please be, as Mia and Holly talked about, and thank you for your courage, and thank you for continue to be here to tell your story. I think it's powerful for parents to be actively engaged, and as Ms. Carr and Mr. Bush talked about. Parents, I beg you to be at the forefront of your child's education and their social interaction. Do not stay away and do everything you can to learn about the technology platforms that live today and all of the nosy books. We call it Facebook. We call it, whether it be TikTok, whether it be Instagram, it continues to grow legs. And leverage the PTA. The PTA does a really good job putting out a guidance of how to be involved in all of the social platforms, the technology platforms. So, use that, leverage them as well to become aware and reclaim the dinner table for having discussions every single day. What happens with your child? So, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Davis. Again, my heartfelt thanks for you all committing to this cause of awareness of human trafficking. Good night, everybody. Please, when you exit, grab some flyers and have a safe evening. Thank you.
They're doing some science activities, some math activities, and applying it to the real world and the lightning.